So, and yeah, I'm happy that Hazel's joining us to talk about the equinox. Some of you know her from the full program, and I'll put your blog, Hazel, in the chat, thereverseritual.com. It's a really wealth of amazing resources throughout the year. She does a fantastic job. So yeah, I'll just turn it over to you so you have enough time. Thanks for being here.
You. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Yes, it's so good to be back in these consecrated ethers with all of you as we, we're tending this spiritual garden that has, I really feel like it has really come alive through these speakers tonight. I'm just overjoyed that all of this creativity can happen in the world and we can be part of it. But I'm also feeling like I'm living in the caterpillar phase of our journey. I'm feeling a little awkward and like I want to just eat a lot, and I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe it's because we've just entered this daylight savings time thing, and I hope your circadian rhythms are resettling nicely. But yeah, March is just so full of amazing holy days, and we don't have time to talk about all of them. But today actually is the Jewish festival of Purim. It begins tonight, and this is when we hear about the courage of Esther. It's one of my favorite stories. And tomorrow is St. Patty's Day. They have already dyed the Chicago River green, so we're on our way. It's a tradition here. And Friday, it's the full Lenten moon. And then on Sunday, March 20th, comes the Vernal Equinox. And that brings this glorious balance of day and night, with just about 12 hours of both dark and light. And I know you've been feeling the shift. The plant and animal kingdoms, they have been accommodating themselves. The birds are building their nests. Everybody's busy. We're feeling it, this calling to arise and be reborn. And this mystery, it's also working in the soul forces of the human being. And we know that during the winter, it was so great to hear Jennifer talk about that winter festival. I'm still seeing that honey clock. But we know that during the winter time, yeah, it's the time of stories, and it's our power of thinking is at its most concentrated. We have this individual human form that comes to its most focused place. And then in the springtime, there's a real turning point that happens. So that when the time that summer comes, a kind of perfect reversal is made. Sort of what Jamin was talking about, that, what was within our inner life turns outward, and what was outward turns inward. Right? Do you feel that? So that was really great to have him really give us that to really work with. And another powerful tool is, that helps us achieve this flow has been given in the calendar of the soul through Rudolf Steiner. We work with this in our Thursday chrysalis group every time. And it really is a great way to live into the cosmic and earthly energies in which our soul traverses. And we know that before we begin the renewal of the cycle, which starts at verse number 1, this is the Easter verse, we must first meet the vernal equinox, which sets the rhythm for our movable feast, which is the first Sunday after the first full moon that occurs after the spring equinox. So we have this cosmic signature that happens. And then at this time of balance, we have Raphael, the archangel of the East, and the element of air. This becomes really activated, this great cosmic physician who shows us that Eastertide works on us through the spiritual healing of inspiration. So yeah, I really felt that come alive in me tonight. Very much inspired. So yeah, let's just take a moment now and just take a deep breath. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been holding my breath for a couple years now. So yeah, let's open to be inspired. Let's inspire each other. Let's share the air and consciously strive to meet this powerful archangel of spring and access the healing breath. So yeah, every spring, the Easter event is recalled. And although the mystery of Golgotha entered into the evolution of the earth as a once and for all event, it is renewed in us each year. And so we can do a little spirit recalling to gather forces and gain insights through the exploration of there's just many cultural expressions connected to spring, which humanity's been creating since ancient times, revealing the manifold expressions of rebirth during this season. And I love this idea of that we need to create new traditions. So that's something that we're going to actually be doing at the Sophia Rising Convergence. So I hope you'll join us for that. But yeah, cultures around the world mark the spring equinox with various festivals and holy days. So I wanted to mention Persia, which of course is now Iran. And this festival is called Nowruz, which means new day in Farsi. And it's the start of their new year. So doesn't it kind of make sense to have the new year in the springtime? I mean, it's one of humanity's oldest festivals. And more than, I think it's like 300 million people celebrate this New Year's Day on the spring equinox every year. And that includes places all over the world that have been touched by the Persian influence, the Balkans, the Black Sea Basin, the Caucasus Mountains, Central Asia, and the Middle East. And then on the other side of the world, Japan also has a public holiday with roots in the ancient religion of Shintoism. And this is the belief that every living thing possesses a spiritual force. And this is especially honored with the advent of spring, as the trees and flowers thrive. To celebrate, folks hold family reunions, they visit shrines and graves. Yeah, they bring their ancestors in. And they give offerings to the cherry blossoms and the other natural wonders that come alive in the spring. And this is a really interesting one. The Hindu arrival of spring holiday is really actually another very old festival, and it's celebrated today with a twist. But it was first mentioned in a poem in the 4th century. But nowadays it's a national holiday in India. So everybody's got the day off of work and they celebrate on the day after the March full moon. So the festival will be on Saturday for us this year. And so, that makes it a movable feast. And the holiday nowadays is known for these, the brightly colored powders that are thrown into the air, covering everybody with paint, symbolizing the joyful return of the many colors of spring. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that. It's wild. Very, very festive. And yes, our ancestors, they have given us such a legacy, so much that we can build on and renew for the future. They had a keen awareness of the seasons, which we need to really awaken. And they built monuments to the sun and the stars, which they marked by, building these initiation sites, basically giant calendars and temples to the gods, really aligning them to display the shafts of sunlight that come in during the equinox and solstice times. This is a picture here of Chichen Itza, this beautiful sacred place, a complex of Mayan ruins on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. So it's right on the ocean. It's breathtaking. And so it's a popular place all year round, but especially during the equinoxes. And the El Castillo pyramid, which is dedicated to Quetzalcoatl. The sun creates this shadow of a snake that slowly slides down the northern staircase, and it's spectacular. Thousands of people come to witness this spectacle. So there's a real carnival atmosphere with music and dancers and other festivities. And on the Mediterranean island of Malta, there is a complex consisting of 3 temples. You see a connection to the Grail mysteries with that. And during the equinoxes, the rising sun is in exact alignment with the main doorway of the lower temple, which allows sunlight to fill the main corridor all the way into the innermost chamber to touch the altar at the end. And yeah, I'm sure most of us are familiar with Stonehenge, right? The most famous Neolithic structure in England, if not the world. And you know, we can really remember it as this dwelling place for the Druids in the days of old. And now, well, everybody comes to watch the same awe-inspiring clockwork sunrise that our ancient ancestors witnessed thousands of years ago. But it's slightly shifted on what is left of the ruins. And then some really amazing places in Ireland. The spring equinox was celebrated here long before the arrival of the Celtic tribes. So it's very, very ancient. And the best known of these ancient temples has this, again, this really interesting 100-foot long passage that accepts the sun on the morning of both the vernal and the autumnal equinoxes. And a second, even older equinox temple also follows a sunbeam on the morning of the equinox that enters a passageway, lighting up the sacred geometry on this backstone that's deep, deep inside the temple. It's just amazing, this precise timing from a period of over 6,000 years ago still works today, although the beam has moved counterclockwise about a foot or so because of the precession of the equinoxes. So what is this precession of the equinoxes? Well, we could do a whole program on that, but just to give you an example, for instance, in ancient India, the sun rose in the sign of Cancer, the crab, at the vernal equinox. In ancient Persia, it was in the twins, Gemini. And in the time of the Mithras cult of Assyria, it was in Taurus the bull. When we did our work with the storytelling of the Holy Nights, working with the Epic of Gilgamesh, that was the energy that we were working with. So we find these astrological influences in mythology. Yeah, it's there in every epoch, reflecting the consciousness of the human being at that time. And at the time of the mystery of Golgotha, it was in the constellation of Aries, the Lamb. So yeah, during the 2,000 years or so since then, it has moved again. And the intersection marking the spring equinox is now in the constellation of Pisces. So when the sun rises on March 20th, 2022, it will be in the constellation of the Fishes. And yet, you know, just like the seasons show us, everything changes. So it is that we'll be making our way toward the age of Aquarius, right? So we can see how these alignments really reflect the changing consciousness of the human being through the ages. And yet we all kind of carry this ancient knowing, don't we?
Mm.
here in Chicago, we have this thing called Chicago-henge because we have these east-west streets. And so the sun will rise and align between the buildings. And so, yeah, this knowing is living in the modern human being. And yeah, with the vernal equinox, we're at this midpoint of the waxing year. So the spark of light that was born at the winter solstice has reached its fertile phase. And from this point forward, the days grow longer than the nights. And this is the time of full dawn. So that's 6 a.m. on the world clock. And I really wanted to mention this idea of dawn because in ancient times, the vernal equinox was sacred to the twilight time of dawn. And we can watch the sunrise every morning and tune into that energy. Every culture through the various epochs has a dawn goddess associated with the element of air in the eastern sky, giving us the name of the holiday that we call Easter. So yeah, the mystery schools, they had a special initiatory rite at the first light of the spring equinox dedicated to the dawn goddess. So maybe, friends, maybe you'll decide to watch the sunrise on Sunday and tune into that energy and see what that speaks to you now. And of course, we know it's also the time of Corey's return from the underworld, where, as Persephone, she had ruled throughout the winter. She reunites now with Demeter to bring fertility back to the earth. And in the old Roman times, it was the celebration of the rebirth of the sun god, Adonis the Beautiful. And we have the Druid traditions of their rites of spring. Alba Ilir means the light of the earth. So yeah, we could talk about, the different holy days of March. And one of the milestones of the dawning of the turning point of time is a feast that we call the Annunciation. So this is marked by the fixed calendar date of March 25th. And this beloved Marian festival really commemorates the day that the Archangel Gabriel announced that the Luke Mary, the Christian form of the Virgin Sophia, was pregnant with the Son of God, born 9 months later on the 25th of December. So how's that for a nice little spring fertility symbol? And this feast of conception is also known by the more ancient name Lady Day. And just to bring us to a close here, I just thought to mention that, yeah, just as a death in the physical world is a birth in the spiritual world, just as dawn is the time of the new light, so the vernal equinox is the time of new life. And so we will mark Rudolf Steiner's death day as a rebirth on the 30th. And this just happens to be our last full cohort meeting before our Easter break. So yes, besides the vernal equinox, March has many of these beautiful holy days, and we can tune in, we can avail ourselves to this sacred time in the cycle of the year, this time of the glowing sunshine, where we can really be conscious of inspiration for healing. So my wish is that we can make this time of rebirth, this time of new beginnings, this time for a fresh start that we need, as we plant the seeds for the future, and yeah, continue our journey of transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel, so much. I feel like I got a little bit, I'm gearing now in that direction. Like, this is that time of rebirth and renewal and the dawn energy and that light and air. So thank you for bringing it all in such your way of just bringing all the beautiful images and cross-cultural and giving us a lot of knowledge as well. So thank you.